Hi, this is Madeline from Occupy Portland again, and I just wanted to continue what I was saying about veganism and how it relates to Occupy. And so I talked a little bit in the last video about how our eating habits in the past might have differed from those today, and how the practices then certainly centered around sacredness and reverence for life and for nature and nature's cycles, whereas now it seems to be more of a opportunistic sort of um, wanton destruction, if you will, of innocent lives that actually don't need to be taken. um, we are not fighting for survival currently. We're not starving, and in fact, what we're doing, and this is now going into the present circumstance, which is what this video about, is we are causing human starvation. And the reason that is because um, a entire crop, usually a monocrop, goes to feed these cows or these livestock, and it's extremely inefficient because all that area of food goes vicariously to feed the person via another animal. And it's actually a lot, you end up feeding a lot less people that way. Whereas that entire field could have not been a monocrop, it could have been a permaculture, organic, plant based garden that could have fed at least 10 times more people, a very nutritious, variety filled diet that is not causing harm. And the thing about animals today and how they're kept in general is that they're not free to live their lives up until the point where we unfortunately have to kill them to survive in the past. They're actually kept their entire lives in really um, torturous circumstances, fed hormones until their body parts swell and they develop health problems and are just in constant suffering. They're in cages just small enough to where they can't even turn around. This is how we are inflicting this violence on these beings. It isn't just that we're unfortunately having to kill them because we have nothing else to live off of. It's that we don't need to be doing this, and what we are doing is horrendous. And it's just the same as what you would do to a dog. If you saw someone doing to a pig or to a dog what is done to pigs on a massive, massive scale, you would want that person behind bars, because that is not the work of a sane human being that can function in society as a compassionate individual at all. It's quite scary what's going on, and I just really want people to understand the differences between ancient practices that we were forced to do for survival in some human cultures, definitely not all of them. There were definitely, and still are, many human cultures where animal products are not a part of their diet. So current practices are extremely environmentally destructive. We discussed monocrops. Also, the water is, most people know we're having a worldwide freshwater shortage, and this is for a variety of reasons. One of the most important reasons, and one of the most major contributors to this, is the runoff from factory farms, and it's polluting the water. Not only that, but how much water is being diverted to feed livestock that could go to thirsty human beings. It's extremely inefficient, it's extremely cruel, it's extremely unnecessary. And what we're being called to do in this time is to actually evolve to a worldwide plant-based diet. And I'm not saying that maybe here and there might not be a few little farms or something that might want to eat a few animals if that makes them happy, okay. Um, but in general, if we want to survive and if we want to um, continue to be able to live on this planet without completely destroying it. The rainforest is another thing that comes to mind. Just massive, massive deforestation. Trees bring in water, and keep things from turning into a desert, which is what all of these, in the past, our ancestors had cut down all these trees. And it's causing soil erosion, desertification, just for their livestock. It isn't, there was the hunter-gatherer period, and then there's the farming period. And that the farming of animals has been extremely destructive. And it's time now that we're facing these environmental crises that we really take responsibility. And I know that it's hard, and I know that it's not what you want to hear. But once you start doing it, number one, you just start feeling so much better. You have so much more energy. Our entire health crisis in America, especially, is just tied to our meat and dairy consumption. You need to watch Forks Over Knives if you haven't already. It's just very, very clear statistically that we are destroying our bodies with this meat and dairy consumption. So it's actually very nourishing, and it's very fulfilling to switch to a plant-based diet. At first, you have to learn some new things like, okay, I made this dish before. How do I make it as a vegan dish? And that can be fun, and there's room for creativity there as long as we don't allow ourselves to be filled with anxiety about that process. And then I wanted to end on a note that I want to make clear I'm not pushing my spirituality on anyone. I don't demand that you have a spirituality. I just wanted to kind of give some background as to where my worldview in this matter comes from. And it comes from a place that I guess you could say has to do with quantum physics, or immanent divinity is another way to put it, where you actually sense that there is a level at which we are so intimately connected that if there is suffering existing in the world, I personally will feel the effects of that suffering. So in a sense, if another being, human or animal, this isn't to put animals above humans, which is what for some reason a lot of meat eaters like to throw at me, but no, this is about compassion for all beings. And yes, of course, I kill bacteria when I, drink my oregano oil or whatever, but I just want to really put forth, as a side note from the spiritual thing, bacteria do not have limbic systems. And if you don't know what a limbic system is, and you want to still argue with me about plants have feelings too, or whatever, please go to Google, look up limbic system. It's actually the emotional center of the brain, and animals have this, and it is what causes them massive suffering, just like a cat or a dog or a human. They don't have to be a scientist or a philosopher intelligent, intelligence-wise, to experience suffering. And as the part of ourselves that experiences suffering, we really need to have empathy for that, especially considering that it's unnecessary and it's unhealthy and it's unsustainable. So for me, those are all pretty compelling factual evidence for why we need to make this shift collectively together. We need to work together and try not to be demonizing. I take responsibility for sometimes I lose my temper, because it's sort of like watching children being abused, because these animals are so innocent. It's like, just think of a cat and think of all the really messed up experiments that are done on cats or dogs. And you know that these beings can't actually defend themselves. And so it's really enraging naturally. The natural feeling of rage comes up when someone is abusing their power over another person, which is, again, why it relates to Occupy, because we're fighting oppression. We're fighting oppression in all forms, and from a quantum point of view, any oppression anywhere contributes to the field. It contributes to the violence in the field. So you could think of it as, Carl Jung says, the collective unconscious. Whatever you want to conceptualize it as, What you put out into the world through your actions creates more of that. It magnifies it because we're all so connected. So if you want to be on the path of fighting oppression and creating a healthy society, we need to have healthy bodies. We need to have healthy relationships with the earth and with other beings. So much of our anxiety and problems and social ills come from the effects of diet on our psyches. And if we are unhealthy, we will be unable to create a healthy world, period. I've studied Ayurveda in India, and this is another contributor to my worldview, which is that health is fundamental to anything that we want to create or manifest or bring about in this society. So this is why this issue is really important to me, and this is another reason I hope I've explained well enough that this is not a matter of personal choice. Personal choices affect everyone else. So it isn't to each their own. We live in an interdependent world, and we need to all talk together compassionately and honestly about what the real issues are and what is contributing to them and how to make them stop for the benefit of everyone. If we work for the benefit of everyone, we're working for the benefit of ourselves because we're included in that. So anyway, I really want to thank you for listening to my videos. And I hope that I've given you some things to think about. Some other good resources are the documentaries Vegucated, Forks Over Knives, Earthlings, and then a good scientific study to read is the China study. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day.